Hey. Welcome to Life Brand Management with your girl, BC Starks, aka Brittany Starks. I'm back with episode 2. I'm working on being as consistent as possible with my new podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I just really wanted to hop on to talk about something that I'm actually working myself through at the moment. And it's pretty much like how to exist in the in-between. Like, if you're on this manifesting journey, you know that like each day is so different. Like from day to day, you are having different experiences. Your thoughts are migrating to different subjects. Your emotions are following those thoughts. And you are pretty much not, what's the word that I'm looking for? I almost said monolithic, but I don't think that applies. You are a multidimensional being, so you're having different experiences each day which affect you in different ways, right? So for me, like part of why I bring this up is because I've had days where I was completely feeling empowered. I started my days with a meditation. I might have journaled a little bit after that, and that really set the tone for my day. And then I would go throughout the day, and even if I would have like negative or intrusive thoughts about just any subject that I know I didn't want to harp on, especially if I know that our thoughts and our emotions create, then I would gradually or fairly quickly bring my thoughts back into alignment with what it is I wanted to create, the desired state that I wanted to occupy, as Neville Goddard talks about, occupying the state of the wish fulfilled. And so on those days, when I meditate, I journal, I'd keep my thoughts in alignment, even when I, would go off track or something would come up or someone would say something that could potentially distract me or take me back to quote unquote the program, the program that I am, moving away from and shifting into the state of my wish fulfilled. And that would be considered a winning day for me. And I also noticed that I would have days, maybe even the day after that winning day, I would have days where I would feel myself gradually on the decline in terms of my thoughts and emotions, especially if I was anticipating or expecting, something to happen or something happened at work. I had negative interactions with colleagues or, just anything that could shift my mood to a negative state or a state of, being emotionally affected in a negative way, a low vibrational way, where I'm feeling either sad or angry or frustrated or, down about what I'm seeing in my reality. And it just like really, I had a process that when I have days like that, where I find myself either spiraling or just not feeling as empowered, I still do the same thing that I talked about in my previous episode, my journaling techniques while I'm manifesting or while I'm in the period of the transitionary period. I don't like to call it waiting because when you say that you're waiting for something to happen, then it's almost implying that you're going to always be waiting, because waiting is an energy as well. I like to say that I'm in my expectancy. While I'm in my expectancy and I'm not having such a great day, I still use my journaling tools that I talked about in the last episode. And those are very helpful, but they don't always hit the spot. And so what I wanted to get on and talk about today is like working through that, right? Like, what if you find yourself in a space where you're like, I'm using all my tools, I'm doing all the things, and I'm still not feeling my best. And what I had an awareness of or a revelation about is that even that kind of day or those kind of moments for me are considered winning moments. I didn't see it that way maybe 20 minutes ago because I was having one of those days actually. But in hopping on here and just really talking about it, I'm starting to realize that even those are winning days or winning moments, because I am a human being, right? We are humans. We do have emotions. We do have memory. We do have, ways that we're used to reacting to circumstances and the people in our environment. And even when we're in the process of becoming aware and making changes to shift from certain ways of existing into more desired ways of existing, we gotta give ourselves enough grace and acknowledge that even if you're not able to shift right away, the fact that you are aware of the notion that feeling bad or bad feeling state is not who you are, but just something that you're experiencing, is a win. Because think about it. Prior to gaining all this knowledge about manifesting, about the subconscious mind and how we work and how our thoughts create, prior to all of this knowledge, most of us were just existing and accepting whatever society and our parents and our upbringing and just things that we learned while we were growing up. We were just accepting all of that stuff as is. We didn't know that we could change any of it, or we didn't know that we could hear something and reject it if it didn't resonate with us. We didn't have that wherewithal. We didn't have that knowledge that we have today, thanks to technology and thanks to all of these audiobooks and all of these YouTube teachers and just everybody who's playing their part in the collective to help elevate our consciousness. Thanks to all these people, we now have this awareness to know that we don't have to accept history just because it happened. We don't have to accept, a thought just because we think it. Just because we think a thought does not mean we have to accept it as true. Does not mean that we have to wear it as our identity. And so in that revelation, I discovered for myself what resonates as true for me is that too is a win. It's a winning day. It's a winning moment when even if I can't shift right away into a higher vibrational emotional state, the fact that I'm aware that, hey, I'm feeling awful right now. Hey, I'm really struggling with my thoughts right now. Hey, I'm thinking these things that I know I don't believe it at the core of me, but I do have evidence of it. I did see some things before, and it does feel awfully real, and it does feel awfully permanent in this moment. I don't have to accept it as final. I don't have to accept those ideas as final. I can say, okay, yep, I'm thinking this thought. Yep, it feels awful. Yep, that person is a terrible person. I can go on my tangent and I could just acknowledge that these thoughts are happening right now and I'm just letting them happen. And yeah, they're affecting my emotion, but because I know they're not true and because I know they're not in alignment with what I want to create, I'm not going to allow myself to go there. And even though I do allow myself to go there, I'm not going to allow myself to stay there for too long, right? Because I know that ultimately this space is going to hit a bottom point. It's going to bottom out. And then from there, I'll be in a state of neutrality. I'll be neutral, right? And then from there, I could build up my beliefs and I can affirm and I could say my I am statements and I could talk about what I'm grateful for. But this is what I wanted to bring to today's subject and today's topic is, just understanding that we are humans, right? We have an entire spectrum of emotions that we will experience in this reality, in this life. And none of them are to be rejected or suppressed or looked upon as good or bad, right? I think we should really be careful about the labels that we give things. We've accepted labels as part of our psyche, but because it gives things meaning. But as Neville would teach, you are giving everything in your reality meaning. You are making assumptions about everything and everyone in your reality. And according to the meaning that you give things, then that is what will be reflected back to you in the form of experiences, in the form of, your emotions and the thoughts that align with those emotions. So be mindful not to give those negative thoughts, and here I go calling them negative. Be mindful not to give those thoughts that may have you in a lower vibrational feeling space. Don't give them labels as good or bad, right? Just acknowledge them as they just are, right? I'm just thinking these thoughts. They just are. I don't feel the best, and I know that I could feel much better than what I do, but I'm just not feeling the best at the moment. And I'm going to let this process, whatever it is, bottom out. Because once it bottoms out, I can then go back and fill my cup up with what I know is my truth, what I know puts me in a good feeling space or a higher vibrational feeling space, and helps me feel aligned or more aligned with what it is I want to create. And as I'm talking through this process, I'm actually feeling a lot better, is what I find. And so I'm really glad that I'm now getting a lot of this out. I'm now getting a lot of this out of my head, out of my body, my emotional body. I feel like I've been gathering so much wisdom and so many lessons. And part of why I haven't been on YouTube and I haven't been on podcasts, or I haven't really been blogging or anything, is because I've just been really in my demonstrative flow of learning to put to use all the stuff that I'm reading in books. Like, I don't just want to be what the Bible talks about in terms of being just the hearer of the word, or just someone who listens or consumes all of these concepts without actually trying them out, right? Because then that would just make us great philosophers and not actual great doers, right? You can have a great philosophy and it sounds good in theory, but until you put that theory to the test, do you know if it really works? And how can you actually say that you're attempting to change your reality when you're not even trying to use the tools that you've been given in the form of this information, right? So for me, I've been ducked off, and I've been in a little cocoon, not really sharing what I know and what I know that I could truly contribute to humanity in the best way in terms of my gifts. And I've been not really keeping it to myself, but keeping it to my close circle and just working my process. But now I find that it must be my higher calling to come on and talk about these kinds of subjects that I'm experiencing, because who knows, maybe spiritually I'm full and it's time for me to start pouring out and sharing more so that that energy can be recycled, right? My cup runneth over. What's in my cup is for me. What runneth over is for the world, and that's my contribution to the world. But it becomes cyclical, right? Because that same thing that I put out is coming back to me to fuel me up. And I believe that the teachers that I've had along my journey, as I've been in my cocoon, some of them which are very popular teachers, like the Neville Goddards, like the Joe Dispensas, I go back to all of my metaphysical teachers, Ernest Holmes, Helen Hadsell, like it's so many I could name, and so many books and so many lectures from people that I call the master teachers, who were also doers of the word. I've been consuming so much, right? But at the same time, I've been literally applying what I'm learning and just feeling my way through it. And I'm here sharing with you some of my process as I feel my way through. And I know that at some point, somebody is going to hear this and it's going to resonate with them. And I think part of why I've been in this space, or having the kind of day that I've had, is because I feel like the universe is telling me it's time to share. It's time to go be what you know you can be in terms of a beacon of light for people. My journey has always put me in a position where I'm speaking words of life to people. That has been my gift from the time I could talk. And it's been my my pleasure to actually do and be. And it's so funny because my mother always says, you take yourself wherever you go, right? And because that's always been my thing to, try to lend a listening ear and then speak life to people and remind them of their personal power. I feel like that's been a part of my purpose or of why I'm here. And being able to do that is what makes me feel most aligned. So I literally take that with me into every job that I've ever had. If any of my former colleagues at the retail stores that I worked at, fellow teachers that I used to teach with, because in another life I was a teacher, and even in the field that I work in now in healthcare advocacy, any of my colleagues can attest that I'm usually the person or the colleague in the batch that is going to say something inspirational or going to say something that tugs at the heartstrings or makes people feel super empowered and like they can really do that thing that they're wanting to do that maybe they had doubt about before they heard me speak. So I have no doubt that part of my even being on this platform again, as a matter of fact, I can attribute that to one of my good peers, a good friend. Her name is Michelle Rohr, and she's an e-commerce entrepreneur. I guess I would call her that, but she has an incredible business, the Secret Owl Society, teaching female entrepreneurs how to pretty much use their creativity to create products, digital products, and monetize it and be successful, but also have great work-life balance. She and I had a meeting about 2 Sundays ago, and we had just not seen each other since prior to the pandemic. We loosely kept in touch, and we've been meaning to connect, and finally we did. And we were literally having these deep spiritual conversations about where we are in our journeys as it relates to just who we are, not even about our job titles or what we do, but who we are. And we must have sat and talked for like 4 hours straight. We had our food. It was a lunch that turned into what could have been dinner. We had our food. We walked around this beautiful outdoor mall and did some shopping. And as we talked about overcoming limitations and limiting beliefs. And she is the reason why I even hopped on to do another podcast, or just to do a podcast in general. While we were speaking, she said, hey, you should start a podcast. Because our conversations, we were really talking about some real stuff. We were talking about, quantum physics and the next chapter in our spiritual journey and parallel realities, and not just manifestations like spirituality, but also just some of the challenges that we were facing and how we would use these tools that we're learning to overcome and to move through the journey, right? And so she was like, hey, you should start a podcast, and you should start one tonight. You should go home and start one tonight. And I thought she was nuts. But you know what? It was a great seed that she planted, and I actually listened. So my first episode was 2 days ago, and here we are. Because she planted a seed, and I'm in a space where I'm full. I'm literally spiritually full. And it's time for me to get back out there and be more creative with how I can share my gifts with the world. And so this is a small gesture for me. Any of you that have been following my journey, I published a book in 2017. I Want It All. It's a vision book journal for manifesting dreams, which from there pretty much sparked the idea for my business, Life Brand Management. Well, it wasn't the initial spark, but it was the catalyst for Life Brand Management. And if you look up my website, BC Starks PR, I made a promise to launch a course that would help women like me, women and girls like me, get unstuck in their journey. And I said I made a promise because I didn't finish the course, if I'm honest. 100% honest, I did not finish the course. I did not hit publish on the course. I have stalled, procrastinated, but partly because I knew that what I was sharing through that course, or what I intended to share, it wouldn't be the full authentic expression of what I'd be confident in sharing, because I was still working through some stuff of my own. I was still working through some heavy stuff of my own. And it was really hard for me to even face or put something together and say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do this, when I was like, yo, but you might want to take your own course. you might want to take your own course and see how that works out for you. And then, share what you've learned with the people. And I'm just, even having been a former educator, I've always been the type that I don't want to teach something that I don't feel a passionate conviction for. And if I could not work through my own stuff, then I did not want to teach someone else or try to tell someone else, hey, you should do this, this, and this, while I'm not following my own advice. I never want to be that person, and I never will be. And so now I'm back because there are plenty things that I have worked through and that I can speak passionately about with conviction, because I know what a capital K, through my own experience, what is true, what has worked for me, and what I've witnessed worked for other people. And as I applied it and saw that it worked for me, I have no doubt that this journey that I'm on, that we're on, in terms of learning our true power as human beings on this planet. We are electromagnetic beings. Everything is energy. Just like the law of attraction said, everything is energy. Just like Neville said, everything is you pictured outwardly. If everything is energy and energy matches energy, then what Neville says in the law of assumption, everything is you pictured outwardly. Whatever you energetically assume, you're going to be reflected, have that reflected back to you energetically. And that shows up in the form of physical reality. Someone who matches your energy, a job that matches your energy, experiences that matches your energy. And so as we're learning these things, like, man, there's so much to unpack. And I'm just on episode 2, right? I'm just on episode 2. But as you're going through your journey, I want you to know that having a not so good moment, having a not so good day is not a quote unquote bad thing. We shouldn't label it as bad. We should see it as all moving us in the direction of what we desire, because that awareness that you no longer want to exist that way is the catalyst for your change. As you continue to feel uncomfortable with those low vibrational feelings, the trouble is when you feel comfortable feeling that way, right? When you just are just like, I feel bad and I'm just going to feel bad because that's just how it is, because that's just what it is. You are comfortable in that. And that's where you find danger. That's where you can, your alarm, your red flag should go up. Like, hey, I'm not in alignment. You should really be concerned in that space, but not when you are aware that, hey, I'm feeling bad. This feels awful. I keep thinking these thoughts. I'm spiraling. I'm not having a good. You don't have to keep running to YouTube to watch the videos to uplift you. You can, if it's going to make you feel better. But you also can just sit with the feelings, sit with the emotion. Sit with it, because it's going to pass through, especially as you're aware and your awareness is telling you, hey, this doesn't resonate with me anymore. I'm thinking these thoughts. I don't feel like this anymore. I don't want to think these. I don't want to feel like this anymore. This doesn't sit well with me anymore. Keep observing those thoughts. Keep challenging those thoughts. Keep presenting those thoughts with facts of the truth. Like if you're thinking, oh, I'm never going to get that job. Well, do you really believe that? I mean, I know it could feel like it, but if you really give into that, you're really just throwing everything that you've learned about thoughts creating things to the wind. And you're saying, I'm never going to get that job. And you're going to be right because your subconscious mind is going to make you right. Law of attraction says that. It's going to make you right. So challenge it and say, okay, maybe in this moment I'm feeling bad because I'm having an experience with somebody that I don't like, or I'm doing a task that I'm not really enjoying, but this too shall pass, right? This isn't permanent. I'm going to finish this task and move on to something different. And even if it feels like I'm waiting on the next opportunity or waiting for a good experience to happen, I don't have to sulk in low vibrational energy. I don't have to soak in low vibrational emotion. I can shift my awareness to something different, or just sit with that thought. Like keep dispelling those low vibrational thoughts and emotions, and you'll start to pick them apart in a way that your conviction for the truth or alignment will start to become more dominant. The more you dispel and pick apart the lies, the stronger your belief becomes in possibility. The stronger your belief becomes in the truth that you start telling yourself in those moments. And then you start to shorten the time that you actually exist in that space. You shorten the length of time that you actually exist in that space. And that's the journey. And that's what I came on here to share. There's no such thing as a bad day. There's no such thing as even bad moments. It's literally just you being. It's you being. You're being the observer of the thoughts that you're thinking. You're being the observer of the emotions you've been practicing feeling. And you're being the observer who says, I no longer want to be that way. I no longer want to think that way or feel that way. Or if I feel those ways, I no longer want to stay in that for too long, because I know that I'm an electromagnetic being and I'm creating from my energy space. And I need to raise my vibration if I want to experience higher vibrational experiences. And so that's all I got for you tonight. I'm off my soapbox. If you listened all 20-something minutes of this podcast, God bless your heart. And I hope you took something from it. I hope something resonated with you that can help you along your journey. Once again, thank you for rocking with your girl, BC Starks. And until next time, happy Thanksgiving. I think that's the holiday that's coming up. Or whenever you're listening to this. Just have a happy evening. Peace out.